Hello, my name is Melissa Pratt. I'm a candidate for a master's degree at Queen's University, and this is my video log for Week 4's scavenger hunt. I will be discussing Heidi Sommer's article, Homelessness in America. It is a literature review that explores the changes in the homeless community from the early 1980s to the early 2000s. She provides a detailed look into the homeless community and presents the evolving causes and solutions researchers in the field have discovered over the past 20 years. As with all things, we should start with its purpose, its reason for being. Heidi Sommer says, the purpose of this brief is to summarize much of the current body of literature pertaining to the national homeless population, with a particular focus on urban homelessness. At the time of the article's publication in 2001, Sommer argued that policies addressing homelessness were at a crossroad. Government officials straddled two options. Do they create more service programs that would encourage chronically homeless members of the community to finally utilize the services? Or do they take a different route completely and explore tactics that would make those particular people less visible? There has been support for both sides of the argument, but neither has completely trumped the other, which has left us with the question, what should we do? The economic stability of the early 2000s warranted many people to believe that aiding the homeless was a possibility. On top of that, there was an extensive body of research that gave names, faces, reasons, and circumstances that many government officials believed could help provide a solution. Couple that with the economic surplus at the time, and it created the perfect environment for, as Heidi put it, expanded and innovative efforts to address this old social problem. Supporters of this argument also look at the determinants that cause homelessness, such as housing affordability and supply, employment, and income opportunity. These are seen as more of a government-based societal problem, not just the result of an individual's choice, which makes them more of a bureaucratic problem. On the other hand, efforts have already been made to hide the people in the homeless community. With economic boom comes progress and building. Urban areas were being revitalized with strategic intentions to restrict the visibility of the homeless. The argument to hide them also stems from within the homeless community itself. Many formless homeless community members are frustrated with the visible long-term members' refusal to accept services. This has led to the increasing support for harsher, punitive laws that criminalize so-called normal homeless activities. In retrospect, the government has seemingly taken both roads, aiding and helping. Next, let's look at the numbers. During the national census of 2000, the Bureau of Census expanded their count of enumeration sites to include soup kitchens, mobile food programs, and day centers, all in an effort to avoid undercounting this community like they did in 1990. Here's what they found. Statistics at the time concluded that nationally, 460,000 people were homeless on any given night. 840,000 were homeless in any given week, and between 2.3 to 3.5 million were without a place to call home throughout the year. Other statistics Heidi used were reported from the Integrity Council of Homelessness in 1999. 40% of people surveyed have been homeless 6 months or less, 31% of people between 6 months and 2 years. These two groups are what's known as temporary homelessness. The second group of people are categorized as chronically homeless. 10% of them have been homeless between 2 to 5 years, and 20% have been homeless for 5 years or longer. Now that we've looked at the numbers, we can get more specific by looking at the faces of homelessness. It's changed dramatically in the last 20 years. In the 1980s, it was very much more homogeneous, with the average homeless person being an older alcoholic male. Now, in the early 2000s, it's become more heterogeneous. Homeless people are more likely to be younger, they're likely to be female, and a part of a minority group. They're also characterized as very poor, disabled, whether that be mentally or physically, and they're known to be socially estranged. Now that we've looked at the faces of homelessness, we can move on to our fourth point, which is the causes. Heidi's research places the various causes that may lead to homelessness into two umbrella categories: individual deficits or personal abilities, and social or structural conditions. Individual factors include mental illnesses, behavioral problems, including substance abuse and addictions, and deep-seated family estrangement factors. Individual factors seem to be the more pressing of the two because they are so hard to remedy. Heidi argues that even if there were abundant affordable housing available, people with the aforementioned factors wouldn't be able to maintain them in the long run. She also writes, and I quote, "Government policies have failed to provide adequate support and treatment to assist them or their families in achieving these ends. As a result, individuals with one or more debilitating disorders often find themselves in a cycle of homelessness, temporary treatment, and incarceration." The second factor is social and structural conditions. These include the changing job market, the increasing poverty and widening income gap, and changes in the housing market. These factors have been described as the way our resources are organized and distributed. Globalization, deindustrialization, and gentrification all have contributed to these causes. But on a lighter note, now that we know the causes, we now have the tools that we need to figure out the solutions. Okay, so now we're down to our fifth and final exploration into Heidi Sommer's article, and this is all about the solutions. When the homeless crisis first emerged, the solution to the problem was primarily twofold: provide emergency food and shelter. This was a result of the population being mostly homogeneous. Now, as the faces started to change and become more heterogeneous, the responses have broadened, with many services focusing on different subgroups within the homeless community. This has been an extreme benefit, especially for those who are homeless due to individual factors. It allows for more strategy and targeted focus to find a solution instead of a one-size-fits-all. Now, depending on how a homeless person is categorized, whether temporary or episodic or chronic, the emergency solution may be different, as well as the preventative solution. To the right, Sommer has provided a chart that breaks down the services each category receives, as well as the strategies to prevent the need for services in the first place. Overall, Sommer provided a comprehensive, in-depth look into the research of the homeless community and has really done justice to presenting a full body of work.